Yo, this is Steve Bloom, and you're watching Moana Nui Podcast. We'll be starting soon. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Veronica Taylor, and from myself and Ash Ketchum, I just want to say, Moana Nui, I choose you!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Moana Nui Podcast. We're so glad to have you join us, and we're so happy to have this segment to kick off once again with us. Y'all may have to excuse some technical difficulties we may be occurring today, but we're going to make it work out. For those that are joining us for the first time, let us introduce ourselves. I am Dana. I am the other half of the Moana Nui podcast. I am a photographer, voice actor, event planner, and a whole bunch more. And then, of course, there's the lovely lady to my right, the yin to my yang, the Renaissance woman of our time, the one woman who has a buddy situation with the Kang because he's given her 12 extra hours to the day to do all the stuff that she does. My co-host, the other half, the founder of the show, Moana.
Hey everybody, aloha mai kako. Welcome. It's good to be back with my sis Dana. It's been a minute since we've been on one together. We've been a little busy, but still trying to keep things moving and keep some good content on the show for you all. So excited to be back here. We are also excited to have our sis Rain back. I think we've all had some, life challenges and things that we've been trying to overcome, but we're glad to be here tonight. I'm excited about the topic. We're going to be talking about healthy relationships of all kinds, not just the love kind, the romantic kind, lots of relationships. And excited to have everybody here in our new home on the Agents of Geekdom. So if you're watching, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and help us bring more people to our content because we got some great stuff. So excited to start tonight's show. And feel free to engage in the comments too, guys. We love that. Ask your questions. Shae is always very good about fielding our questions. So I guess let's get started, ladies.
Yes, definitely. So, of course, Shae, we have to start it off because there's so many, everybody has their own concept of what a healthy relationship is. Can you give us, from a therapist, the clinical aspect of what a healthy relationship is?
No. Because it's also so important to recognize that relationships of all kind have to be able to work for the people that are in them. And so what my definition of a healthy relationship for me might be won't necessarily work or for you or for them or for whoever. But the basic essence of a healthy relationship is a relationship where people can feel heard, appreciated, and a level of love they require. The basic parts that you're looking for when you're saying a health kind of really talking what we wanted to talk this week, I started out thinking functional relationships and to define. So I wanted to go with the healthy part because mental health being the thing, your health relationship is going to start with you.
Our favorite JD is in the comments.
I promise you, I'm really not on the public Wi-Fi.
Hey, JD, you missed what we said earlier. There are some connectivity issues going on. So, of course, yeah, it is a little choppy, but yeah, both Moana and Shae, unfortunately, they must be in the areas that have that weather front coming through and is affecting their Wi-Fi. But we're going to make it work. So, of course,
it is
Moana put in the comments of like what is important to you in a relationship, and for people to sound off on that. And I know everybody has their different things, so kind of get it going. Like for myself, whether it's friendship, dating relationship, family, or my biggest part is that level of trust, that I have to have a level of trust with you, and communication, because I always like to say that choosing to opt out of telling me something so things can move in your favor is not communication for me. Be upfront. Let me know. It may hurt. It may look ugly. It may all that, but it's my decision how to operate in that relationship. And then, of course, like you said, each party having a chance to be heard, kind of aspects. So I think those are like the three foundations for myself for a relationship of any type. Moana, what about you?
Yeah, for me, communication is like the number one, because everything else, trust, all of that stuff is built off of communication. And if you can't do that effectively, then it's really hard to grow together. And it takes some time, right? Like not everybody's gonna I'm gonna tell you my whole life. It takes, there's steps to this, right? And it's slowly building trust.
Yes.
And continuing to develop that trust is important, because it takes so long to build it up, but just like this, you can break it. But I think as long as, both parties, as you mentioned, like are operating with respect and really wanting to hear each other's point of view and respect it, whether or not you agree or disagree, I think that's key to anything. Yeah.
Definitely. So, Shae, of course, I always like to do my Google search for whatever topic we have to come out like with little bullet points and stuff. And one of the things they mentioned about it was the elements of a healthy relationship or signs of a healthy relationship. What could be some of those as far as on a mental health or a therapist aspect of a healthy relationship? I think the Wi-Fi got her.
He froze.
So while we wait for the connection to come back on that, and of course, I also saw on there it's just JD said, "Slow down, Shae. I'm trying to take notes."
That's too funny.
But
yeah, but I think I think today, like something happened at work. It was one of my coworkers, and she was having issues with our boss, and it was essentially a situation that she had brought to his attention, and he had dropped the ball somewhere. But he's not taking accountability for his mistake. and he's trying to pass the buck to somebody else, whoever else, not that person, to kind of take accountability. And like they, for the most part, they have a good relationship, but when things happen like that and it negatively impacts, the person that I mentioned, it's unfortunate because it's a breakdown in the relationship. It's unfair to her. It changes the dynamic. Can you fix it? Yes. But like, if the other person's not willing to be upfront and just be like, own it, like, yep, that was my bad. I dropped the ball. Let me see what I can do to correct it. It's really hard to continue to move forward in that relationship in the same way. And it's just natural for that to change. So, but it could be romantic, friendship, working relationship, like all of it. To me, it's just engagement between two people, right? Like whatever the relationship is, and just kind of the characteristics of essentially being a stand-up person. I feel like we as humans, we don't expect people to be perfect, but we do expect you to own your stuff. It's just a respect thing. And when people don't feel respected, then it's really hard to build relationships with that. And you end up pushing people away, whether you intend to or not. It's just people can, smell that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I looked up, and of course, one, of course, it was online saying, what does a healthy relationship look like? One of the things I saw here was healthy relationships involve honesty, trust, respect, and open communications between um, both people. And they take effort and compromise from both people. There's no imbalance of power. Partners respect each other's independence, can make their own decisions without the fear of retribution or retaliation, and share decisions. And I
Yeah.
think that's important across whether it's a working relationship, friendship, any of that, because a lot of times that fear of retribution and retaliation,
Yep.
a lot of times steers a relationship so differently because they don't want to speak up because the way this person responds to it and things like that. So it gives that different level of, okay, uh, can I really have an honest conversation with them, or do they just want to hear the good?
Right.
Because there's some people that only want to hear the good, and if you mention anything bad, it's just like you might as well call World War III.
Right. It's so true.
Hello, Shae.
Am I better now?
Yes, you are better. You have a little lag, but not as much as it was before. You do a little freezing ever so often, but then you start moving again.
Okay, I'll take it.
Okay.
And I can hear both of you, so that's helpful.
Exactly. So I was just mentioning Moana. I had looked up online, and there's an article that said healthy relationships involve honesty, trust, respect, and open communication between both people. They take effort and compromise from both people. There's no imbalance of power. There's respect of each other's independence and can make their own decisions without the fear of retribution or retaliation, and shares decisions. And I was just mentioning that sometimes that fear of retribution and retaliation really affects the honest communication aspect of that balance. JD says, you went next door and told your neighbors to get off the Xbox in the next hour. they own your Wi-Fi.
They're stealing your Wi-Fi. It's too funny.
Listen, this internet, I think it's really important to be able to recognize when it comes to communication, we all have a style, you know,
Mhm.
and some people require that moment of silence before they speak. And sometimes that moment is a little bit longer than some of us can handle, especially if it's a deeper situation where we're in the middle of, I'm 2 seconds away from ripping your eyeballs out your head if you don't say something, and then they don't say anything. It's very, very difficult to manage an honest communication style.
Mhm.
Don't match. So it's when you are building or establishing your relationship, it's going to be the most important thing for you, way at the top of the show before I cut out, where Moana was explaining, communication is the basis of everything. If you
Yes.
can't communicate on the same wavelength, you don't know that this is someone who requires that long pause, requires the ability to walk away first so that they can collect themselves and then come back, or whatever the communication style is. Um, a big key as to whether or not you can. Relationships are, of course, with our families, right? That's going to be the foundation of how you learn to function in relationships. How
Mm.
you communicate, let's say, with how you communicate with your siblings, how communicate with you, welcoming to your input, or are you better seen and not heard, or something like all of these little things train us for how it is that we're going to um, communicate in our friendships, communicate in our romantic relationships, communicate in our partnerships, communicate in business. And if we can't find ourselves, especially if, in our foundation relationships, if we didn't have that healthy foundation, being able to find ourselves later to be able to create health in our relationships is going to be that much more difficult.
Mhm. And I like the fact you touched base on that because a lot of people don't realize how much your growing up affects how you develop your relationships. If you're, like you said, in a household where children are seen but not heard, then you kind of have that same aspect as when you're in dating relationships at work. You have more of a submissive kind of appearance because of that and things, but you get frustrated because you can't get what you want to say out, and people don't really hear you out. So, um, that those aspects, and a lot of times, a lot of people don't realize sometimes we don't come from the most healthy relationships growing up and the most healthy environments of what we're exposed to, which kind of has that, like I said, that generational curse of the same behaviors repeating itself in the different generations. But I I like that how. So if somebody, especially, you have that foundation from your family and your loved ones of how to interact with people, how can one work on your own self so you can get past that seen but not heard, or helping people to understand, hey, I need a few minutes before I can respond. I'm not going to instantly respond. I have to think things out before I speak.
Like I have something, but yeah.
remember the entirety of the quote. Okay.
Go ahead,
but
Shay.
a piece of the quote that I always say, to thine own self be true. Know self. And then there's something else that comes after that. A lot of people don't even know that they are that person who needs that pause.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't even know that they think of them still, they think of themselves still as better seen and not heard. So you have to start becoming more self-aware to what you need, because it's going to be not impossible, but very difficult for you to function in your relationships if you can't get you. Because then if you can't get you, you're going to have that much more of a difficult time getting someone else. And then you're not going to be able to explain yourself. Hey, I need that. I'm pausing right here because I need to think this through first. You're not even going to have that ability because you don't even recognize that that's what you need. Or maybe everybody in your foundational relationships did exactly that. And so you think that that's just normal. Where you relationship later and your best friend is just like, I can't talk to you because it takes too long for you to get your thoughts out your head. Like, you end up having these kinds of dynamic issues based on what you think or what you've learned as normal. So it's first.
I think you can also have
Moana,
the opposite. I was going to say, I think you can also have the opposite dynamic where, like, I can't talk to you because you don't let me get a damn word in. Like, 'cause some people like that. For me, that's been kind of like my challenge is a little bit of like, I have thoughts and I don't want to forget them. So I feel like I need to get them out. But then when you're in conversations with the person who doesn't let you get words in, that can be frustrating too. So like one of the tips that I've kind of been adopting it even more now for my own self-awareness is that as somebody's talking, if I have thoughts that I don't want to forget, but I know I'm not going to have a chance to jump in, I write them down, like, in front of me in my notes so that like my thought is still there. And when they're done, I can bring it back up. Right. And then for me, like, I feel like my voice gets heard because the other part for me is that like, I tend to be more of a listener. I have no problems with the listening part of it. A lot of people do. But then the flip side of that sword is that sometimes I don't get my voice in, and I'm trying to be better about like doing a little bit of both and being more balanced in that way.
And I think that's that, like you said, that conversational piece. Because I know there's an assessment called DISC that you learn about your different parts of yourself as far as I tell people one test don't cover everything about yourself. I've learned from my current job, you have to, it's multiple ones to kind of give you each of their pieces. You got Strength Finder, your strengths, you have DISC, you got Myers-Briggs, you got Color Wheel. And if you add all of those up together, and DISC, I love the fact that they have a portion, and Color Wheel does too, if you decide to partake in it, they have a section about communication styles. And it's very fascinating how people misconceive your styles, because I had it like had our color wheel done when I first started at work. And one of the things they had us to do is everybody had a piece of paper on the back of the chair, and everybody had to mark the side of the color wheel that they thought that person was. And so everybody had me marked as far as green. That's someone that is very sociable, all this other stuff. And of course, when they got to me, the instructor was like, "No, Dana's a blue. She needs order She needs details. You need to come with all. She's going to ask you a million questions if you're not giving her what she wants. And then she's not going to handle what you're going to do until you give her what she needs. And everybody's just like, oh, that explains it. Like, yeah, she's would say, of course, explains. It's like she appears agreeing because of her job, of her how she has to be. So that she's like, everybody pulls out a color that is not 100% natural to them. It's like green is a more dominant color for me, but I bring it out because of my job. Because I have to interact with so many different people. So I can't be giving everybody the the RBF face all day because because I'll be called into HR because they're gonna be like, Dana, what's really going on? But it's one of those that a lot of times somebody how they operate at work is misconceived of their communication style or how they truly are because you have to bring a different part of yourself into that job versus how you are outside of work and all. So that communication aspect is so key, in especially in that world to kind of help people understand, hey, I need the details. Like I even had to create at work. I have a form when people ask, like, "Hey, I need this kind of meeting or this kind of event. I need your help with." I send it to them like, fill that all out. Hit that send button at the end. It's going to send it right to me, and I have everything I need. Is this in person? Is it hybrid? How many people are coming into the office? Who all we need to invite from my side, from your side, all of this. I need all those details because that's what I need. So I have to give you a tool to help you give me what I need to be able to help work with you efficiently. And I think that's something that a lot of people have to realize you have to not everybody's going to know how to communicate and work with you for a healthy relationship, but sometimes you have to bring a tool or something to the table to help them know, okay, this will help me provide Dana or Moana or Shae what they need to do their job or for us to have a proper conversation. I think Shay's frozen again. I know it's storm. It is a. I do know it's like a rainstorm coming through the Georgia area, so she may be caught in the bad portion of it because I know it's coming up my way, but it hasn't hit here yet.
Yeah, it's ironic that we're trying to talk about communications and we're having communications.
we're having a technical communication issue, which is outside of our heads.
Yeah.
Not sure.
But
Hear
kind
me.
of keeping this going, I saw also, like I said, as I was going looking online, there was this wheel about healthy relationships, covering those aspects of like it said here, trust, accepting each other's word, giving the benefit of the doubt, accountability, admitting mistakes for when you are wrong,
Yeah.
accepting responsibility for behaviors, attitudes, and values. That part is like a key one, that accountability aspect that so many people forget about because it's like that one saying, your feelings are valid, but how you respond to your feelings, you're accountable for.
Hmm.
And however you respond to that, you have to take the consequences for your action.
Yes.
And then they have safety, refusing to be intimate or manipulated, respecting physical space, expressing self nonviolently, and uh, establishing your personal boundaries too. Then they have honesty, of course, communicating openly and fully, supporting each other's choices, being understanding, offering encouragement, listening non-judgmentally, and valuing opinions. And then, of course, the last one they have here is cooperation, asking not asking to not expecting accepting change, making decisions together, willing to compromise, and win-win resolutions to conflicts. And I think a lot of those,
That,
as we were talking, yes,
All of that.
that
that
last part.
accountability part, I think is always the missing key. A lot of people forget about because we know so many people that don't want to admit their wrongs.
Mhm.
We've had people say, "This is who I am." You take it as is, and it's just like, "But bro, you're wrong. Sis, you're wrong." And then you have, of course, those, you will, like it says here, respect each other's, accept responsibilities for your behavior, attitudes, and values. Because, we all have our, those bad days. We have attitude. We may snap at somebody working your nerves because you're already under stress. But we have to acknowledge that later on when you realize, okay, I did snap at them. Whether they're your child, your coworker, your spouse, hey, I want to apologize. I was having a rough day. I want to, apologize for how I came off. Can we talk about it? I want to make sure you're okay with everything. But a lot of times that portion is left out. Like we constantly see, which I think affects that relationship aspect is come back the next day and act like nothing, supposed to act like nothing happened, even though you're still like have that bullet wounds from that previous encounter, and then it's like I'm still bleeding over this, but you want me to act like I'm okay with this? Okay, and I think that's
Yeah.
a huge piece for me.
I think no. And this is one that's not just about thinking and feeling. This one I know. I know that all of that is a huge part of why relationships break down. Not like I can't even say I think. No, I know that those are the elements of relationships where the biggest breakdowns happen. It's like, well, we just had a conversation yesterday, and I think it went great. But they're literally still, well, not literally, but they're figuratively still bleeding because of that interaction. Because either they didn't feel heard or something was said that really hurt, or it's glaringly obvious that that person was not actually listening, that all they were doing was sitting there and waiting for their turn to speak. And if you've ever had an argument, yes, I'm talking about you. Because when we are arguing and things get heated, more often than not, listening, and then you're just waiting for that person to shut up so you get to talk. And it's so important to recognize when you're doing that, because it could be 3 days later, and all of a sudden you rehear the conversation just like, oh crap. Yeah, I messed up. A whole 3 days later, and then your pride's in the way, right? Now your pride is in the way, and it's just like, well, I don't want to admit it's been 3 days later and this is still on my mind, or this just occurred to me. Now I'm gonna look stupid. This is why, as they used to say, this is why we can't have nice things. So, all of that. And definitely when it comes to accountability, being able to admit when you're wrong.
Yes.
Or people have gotten really comfortable saying, okay, let's just agree to disagree. When you say, let's agree to disagree, what you're saying is, I don't really care what you say, think, or feel in this moment, because as far as I'm concerned, you're wrong, and you're just going to keep your wrong opinion, and I'm going to keep my right opinion. Especially if you're the first person to say, let's agree to disagree. You have summarily shut down the communications. This is where talking stops. This is where listening stops. this is where communication ends. That's what agreeing to disagree actually means. What you can say and hopefully mean instead of something like that is, I don't agree. However, I hear you and I appreciate that you were willing to help me understand your point of view.
Yes.
There's a huge difference in when trying to communicate with each other, appreciating someone else's point of view versus simply agreeing to disagree.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that I want you to lie in this communication if you don't appreciate that person's point of view. But if you do, make sure you actually that part. It's really important. Because otherwise the person doesn't actually know they've been heard.
Yes. Definitely,
And
definitely.
be accountable for whatever you say.
Exactly. And like you said, it's that pride accountability aspect. A lot of people don't have a hard time swallowing, like you said, that pride aspect. It's just like, or the aspect of, we can change, or the part that says, hey, part of it is compromise. And some people are so steadfast, like, I'm right. Well, I'm right too. That's it. And it's just one of those, it's
Is
like,
being
okay,
right more important than your relationship?
That's the key question right there. Like how far up this hill do you want to die on? Is it that serious?
Yes.
You could, yeah, because you can go to the top of the hill and you can die up there all by yourself.
Yes.
Or you can be on the middle of the hill and still have your friend with you, still have your partner with you, still have your coworker with you, still have your mom with you, cousin, uncle, brother, whatever. Where do you want to land at the end of the day? And if being right is more important than all of that, then here's my card. We have a whole different kind of conversation to have.
Right.
Now, for the aspect of, like, sometimes we constantly have heard, as far as the aspect of generational aspects in a family, the disconnect between parents and children. Children constantly feeling like they're not allowed to be heard, even as an adult. They're trying to help and let their parents know, I want you to hear me out. How can people in the audience figure out how to navigate that relationship? Because a lot of parents have that, even as your adult, I'm the parent. This is it. And it's like, no, mom and dad, what you're saying is so wrong. You just don't know. You're very wrong. Please listen.
From the parental side, get comfortable with the idea that you are giving this small person an opportunity to learn how to be a big person by listening.
Yes.
Our jobs as grown-ups, when it comes to little people or medium people or adolescents, whatever you want to call your child, your kid, okay, the product of you, whoever you may be, or just a young person with whom you are having conversation at this moment, the purpose of that conversation is so that you can give them an opportunity to learn how to be a big person, how to be a grown-up. If the message you want to give is nothing you say is valid until you're a grown up, then by all means, please continue on that track. On the other hand, if you want them to be able to have healthy relationships, then listening. And when it comes to talking to younger people, it's so easy to dismiss and to discard and to downplay and, all of those, be condescending, all that stuff that grown-ups tend to do. Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, no. All of those things. It's so easy to do all of that. I understand what it is to have a long and hard day. This person in front of you has no idea what it is to have a long and hard day, at least not the kind that you as a grown-up is having. In that moment, when they are trying to explain for the billionth time whatever thing it is that they're explaining to you, because that's what young people tend to do, is try in many different ways to explain the same thing that you either already lived, experienced, or something to that extent, and you're just like, been there, bought the t-shirt, burnt it, and ended up having to wear it anyway. Yeah. Your job is just to listen.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And then when you are given the opportunity to impart your wisdom, do so with patience and grace. Do so with the kind of level-headed appreciation for their youth that you would have wanted when you were in their position. Remember that kids especially have no control in life. They have no say. Especially if they're your kid, you're the one who has all the control in this. You're the one who gets to say, hey, we're moving, deal with it. You're the one who gets to say, today we're going to eat this, or today we're going here, or no, you can't have this. All of that, those are all your decisions. If the one which is free is to sit there and listen, at the very least you can do that, because it's not like there are any consequences that you are going to suffer otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Definitely.
listen.
Exactly. Listening is a very powerful tool, whether people realize it or not.
Yeah, for sure.
So, as far as a different aspect of how, especially if you have one of those that's just like, you know what, I'm done, I'm burning this bridge, I don't want nothing, I don't want to deal with you kind of aspect, but you are kind of like, okay, I'm trying to give you some time to cool off. I want to reach out that, you know, little peace branch, that give a little olive branch and everything to try to work on that relationship, to mend that relationship. What advice can you give those in the audience of like, hey, me and my parents, we haven't talked in years, or me and my friend, we haven't talked, or different aspects like that. What advice can you give someone if someone's just like, the other party is just like, you know what kind of aspect?
All relationships require saving. Some relationships simply require time. So there's some relationships, let's say, for example, like your relationship with your parents or your kids or your long-term best friend who you just think maybe you grew apart for a minute. those relationships, some of them don't need to be quote unquote saved. They don't necessarily have to have that big, long, deep conversation where everybody apologizes and there's a tearful reunion and you ugly cry and then you go out to Benihana or something. Like, not every relationship requires that. Some relationships just require acknowledgement. It's been 11 years since we last spoke. I don't really remember. Wait, let me rewind that moment. Even if you think you remember, you really don't. I'm going to rewind that moment again. Even if you think you remember, you really don't. The way the human brain, and more specifically the memory actually works, is you're remembering it based on your emotion, not even at the time when the thing happened. You're actually remembering it based on the emotions that you are having about it right now. So whatever you think you remember about what happened 11 years ago or 5 minutes ago, if you are not literally in that moment, which, by the way, you can't possibly literally be in that moment again. Once the moment is gone, it's over. You don't actually really remember that moment. And even more important than that, you will never remember their side, because they were an entirely different thing from you, whoever it is. So if it's been 50 million years, you're going to need to admit that you do not really remember what the situation was. And if this is a relationship that you want to resume, then you admit, I don't really remember what it was, but I do know that this relationship is more important to me than whatever it was that stopped us from talking 57 million years ago. You don't have to have the whole conversation necessarily, because neither one of you remembers really what it was. You remember that your feelings were hurt, or their feelings were hurt, or maybe there was a misunderstanding, but time has passed, and you'd like to see if the people that you are today can get along in a way that's even better, or at least very different from how you got along back then. Whatever it was, let that go.
And like you said, it's the let go. Sometimes for people, it's hard at let go. Like they said, as the saying is, like, you'll cut off your fingers or something by holding on so tight to something that, you'll give up your hand over holding on to something that is way past that, that person probably not even thinking about it anymore, but you're keeping it alive.
All by yourself. Like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Ooh, we're morbid today.
But like I said, sometimes you just gotta hit it with the truth serum right there, because a lot of people, they have the one aspect of woulda, coulda, shoulda, and kind of keep those aspects of, well, this. I like the fact that you said we see it in because of that moment we're currently in, versus like it ties into that saying of like there's 3 aspects to a situation: yours, theirs, and the truth.
Yep. And once time has passed, all 3 of those things will change. What's the real truth? If you can remember your last argument, or what you think you remember of your last argument, where you are right now will tell you that the argument you had when you were 13 with your friend who was also 13 probably didn't actually mean anything.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't that big a deal, short of murder and quadrillions of dollars. Right? unless the argument that you had is literal death, it probably didn't mean. So what that was, you hurt my feelings, because that's the basis of it. Someone's feelings got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
If you're still hurting now, the question you should be asking is, person who hurt my feelings, who for whatever reason I still value their friendship, their whatever, is this relationship enough to you for you to be able to move forward with some semblance of a promise, so to speak, to not like that again? And notice I say like that, because human beings are hardwired for fuckery. Okay, you can quote me on that. That's what human beings do. We mess stuff up. Okay, we're hardwired for fuckery. We are hardwired to make mistakes. We are fallible.
Yes.
Perfect. That is what we do. Okay, so the promise would be to hopefully not hurt the feelings again like that. And agreeing that when feelings get hurt again in the future, that a real conversation can happen that didn't happen 11 years ago.
Yes. Definitely. Well, of course, hopefully everybody, you're taking some nuggets. I know we had some, technical difficulty with the connectivity, with the weather going on, but you still got some nuggets. We had, of course, as we always say, for whenever we have these conversations for Rain Talks, we're only getting the conversation started. If this is resonating with you and you feel that there's some unresolved things, one, reach out to Shae, set an appointment, talk. If Shae finds you need somebody a
Here's
little bit deeper, she will refer you to somebody a little bit deeper that may be like, okay, this is outside of my range. We're going to take you to the second level. Like how when you call customer service, first level can help you. We're going to elevate you to level 2. We're going to elevate you to level 3. We're going to elevate you to the management, because one of us is going to try to help you, but we got to start with the baby steps. Start talking to somebody, because a lot of times there's um you don't unresolved
Unresolved.
behaviors, hurt, all this stuff from growing up, your foundation, family, friends, and you're still holding on. Like Shae gave the example of somebody you had a fight with, you were 13 and now you are 50 years old and you're still holding on to it.
Dear
Talk
life.
talk to somebody. Or as Shae would say, if the day ends with Y, you need therapy.
It's a good day for therapy.
So reach out. A lot of times your company, they will have options that you can get therapy through them, virtual or in person. Just take the steps to do that, because a lot of times, do you resolve those things that you've been holding on to, you're going to continue hurting others, and you're not going to understand why. Like, you hear people say, I just can't keep friends. They just can't, they just don't accept me. Maybe it's not the friends. It may be something with you that you have to look into and talk to somebody. So, Moana, do you have any last words or anything?
But before we do last words on that, because that was a very important point. When we're talking about healthy relationships, therapy, a great place to start learning how to build healthy relationships and healthy communications is in support groups. There's a support group literally for everything out there. There's support groups that are meeting in person. There's support groups that meet online. There's support groups that are only on the phone. having the opportunity to commune in a group of people who are also having similar situations is a great way to start mending some of those internal hurts. So if you don't want to talk to just a me, please consider a support group.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think another important thing is like, it's a huge part of why we even started these podcasts is that when we don't talk about the things that might be bothering us, the challenges that we're facing, we're essentially like creating our own stress in our bodies. And until we can vocalize those in a healthy manner, we're just essentially like hurting ourselves. Whether we realize it or not, there are just these things that happen, and what we manifest is not healthy. So realize that it's not an overnight process either. Celebrate the little steps, like even just, okay, I will set up an appointment, or whatever it is. I'm gonna go talk to a friend who I've never, I feel comfortable with this person, so I'm gonna take a first step and have some kind of conversation. Celebrate
Yes.
the small wins. Take the time for the self reflection, and then like see what your next steps are, because it's a process. It's a lifelong process that we all go through. Um, but just celebrate the wins for you and yourself, and taking action on what you need for your
Yeah.
own individual situation. Yep.
Shae, any last words from you?
Well, we already said if the day ends in Y.
And 50% and do more.
Yes, do your 50%, but it was recently brought to my attention that a lot of people don't know what their 50% really means, because people are really hung up on, well, I got to do my 100%. I hear you. The 50% is your 100%, and that's how you choose to show up in the world. How your relationships is, or how you want your relationships, is only half of the equation. The other half is the other person or the other people. In this day and age, we have to acknowledge that there's more than one kind of relationship out there. The all the different classifications. I'm not even gonna try to go through all of them right now, but there's so many different kinds of relationships of the romantic variety out there, and so many different kinds of situationships and all of these ships. No matter what kind, the only part of it that you are responsible for is your half. That's your part of it. What the other person brings or the other people bring to you is their responsibility. And then, like Dana said earlier, how you react to it is ultimately up to you. So please do your 50%, do more, require better of yourself, of those around you, teach people how to treat you,
Yes.
and just, don't be an asshole your whole life.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, with that, everyone, we thank you for joining today's episode. If you're watching it on the replay on YouTube or Twitch, or on Twitter, or on our Facebook page, uh, definitely take it in. Definitely like or subscribe, like Moana said, to the Agents of Geekdom, our new network that we're part of. Every day of the week, there's content from various podcasts, other podcasters that have come together and made a network. That every day of the week you have something that you can listen to, take in, and everything. And then definitely tune back in about 30 minutes. We'll have our next panel, which will be our Moana Nui After Dark panel, talking about Marvel's new movie, Ant-Man and Wasp, uh, that just came out last week. So definitely we're going to have our little panel talking about it. I only have one word, and it's Kang. Um, Kang and Kang and Kang. Um, so I can't wait until we get in this conversation. But once again, everyone, thank you for tuning in. If there's a topic that you will love for Shae to talk about in upcoming months, definitely message us. Let us know, like, hey, we'd love to kind of talk about this particular topic. We can bring it to Shae, and that way we can see how we can talk about it in the next month or the month after or such, for our upcoming episodes, because we definitely want to cover topics that are top of mind or that is affecting you right now. So once again, everyone, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you all at 8:30 for our Ant-Man and Wasp panel. And you all have a great evening. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then. When they annexed Hawaii and called it Cedar Lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves the Republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if we put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course. Cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.